All right, this is week 4, day 7 lesson plan. Today's lesson plan is more about your Loyola story, not just Loyola's story. They spent the last class really talking about our Jesuit schools network and also our faith crest, and they're going to make a crest of their own today. One of my favorite days. So they're going to sit with their 2 o'clock partner and connect the quote of intellectually distinguished and loving with great things are done by a series of small things brought together, Vincent Van Gogh. And we also want them to start thinking about a proud moment that they'd share with their 2 o'clock partner. And as we've done before, if they want photos, they can pull one up on their phone and then put their screen down so that we can move on with the lesson and know that everyone's focused. Once we're here, we want to model what the bell ringer looks like. So this is me modeling that my proud moment was running a 5K after I had knee surgery and I was exposing my scar for the first time. It was something I wasn't quite used to having, and it felt really good and I felt really strong, right? And then we're going to pray the prayer or give students obviously time to do their Throwback Thursday. So have them do some maybe 2 minutes each, and then go ahead and ask the large group to share some things. If you want to practice active listening, have somebody share someone else's Throwback Thursday. We're going to pray a prayer called Fall in Love by Pedarupe, who is a beloved Jesuit of social justice and someone that was very important to the Jesuits in general. So we'll pray that prayer. St. Ignatius of Loyola, pray for us. We're going to review the agenda, and we're going to notice that we have 2 things left. We've already done the bell ringer. We've already prayed the prayer. We're going to talk about this quote, and we're going to talk about consolation and desolation and a crest of our own. So go ahead and have students share out loud how they connected to today's grad values. I like some follow-up questions since, sometimes we go through the quotes pretty quickly. This is where you can really give it some time. So, where does this happen in life and school? Why does this happen? What can you do with this information? So again, going back to this idea of great things are done by a series of small things brought together. In school, a lot of these little assignments add up to your final grade. And that's going to be the thing I think most students will recognize quite literally. But we also want them to think about life. What does this mean for our relationships, right? The small graces that we give one another really accumulate into a bigger, more profound grace later on. So you're going to notice that this part is animated, the text, and I just want you to be mindful of that as you're presenting. Have the students go to their planners, again, CY1 Day 7. And in CY1 Day 7, they're going to see something that says consolation and desolation. And so we want to talk to them a little bit about what do they think desolation means? When something's desolate, what is that? Hopefully they're able to be like, oh, it's empty, right? And so when we experience desolation, these are Ignatian terms, we turn in ourselves, we sometimes cut ourselves off from community because we're so inward, and it makes us want to give up on things that used to be important to us. And I'll fix the animation in a little bit. It's also just like those energy draining moments. Whereas, and so what we're going to do is kind of remind them that these moments are going to happen, especially in your high school career. You're going to feel alone, bored, apathetic. Like certain things might happen. You might get cut from the team. You might lose a game. You might not be cast in a play or fail a test. And a lot of these times, or something really egregious happens in your home life. So I want you to think about desolation and consider and name 3 anxieties or stressors or fears that you still may have about school, and just write them down. And tell them, I'm not going to have you genius scan this. This is really for you and for your use only. Once they've done that, then we're going to go ahead and give them consolation, ask them what they think this means. It's the opposite of desolation, directs our focus outside and beyond ourselves. It just lifts our hearts and our spirits. It's an energizing moment. It bonds us to the people that we care about. And this is when we're feeling fulfilled, challenged, engaged. And at Loyola, you might make the team, you might get an A, you might get the lead role, you might have done your personal best in something that you're passionate about, something really beautiful happened in your family. Like these are the things that we talk about when we say consolation. So consolation and desolation are often terms that we use in Jesuit schools because it points to the lights and shadows of our existence. And we talked about metacognition, and metacognition is learning or thinking about thinking. Well, if you think about consolation and desolation and what we do in the examen, it's kind of being mindful about our spiritual mind, our spiritual selves. So you can kind of give them that analogy. And so again, we wanted to remind you that you're more than just a test score, that you will recover if you get cut from the team. And we want you to think about this, a little bit more deeply. How do you seek help when confronted with these anxieties, fears, or stressors, right? How do you seek help? And they're going to write that down in their CY1 planner. And we want to say, listen, after they've done that, we are here to remind you that you are a talented group of folks. You have been chosen to be at Loyola for a reason. So remember that when you have moments of desolation, there is also consolation, because God created you to be uniquely who you are. And we're constantly improving on our moral character, but you are fundamentally beloved. And we need you to remember who you are, because this is going to happen. And so we give you this exercise of consolation and desolation to remind you that you also have a network of humans that are there to support you, and that you are pretty fabulous. And so by doing that, then we're actually going to say, because you're so fabulous, we want you to remember who you are always, and we're going to invite you to make your own faith crest. So similar to the crest that we found in our Jesuit network and Loyalist crest, you're going to do the same thing. And on that same page where they did the desolation consolation exercise, they're going to spend some time thinking about what it means to have a crest of your own. And the example is in the spirit. So in their CY journals, I want them to reflect on, what do you think you bring to Loyola, and what are your treasures, talents, and intangibles? Have them write that down. Give them, because this day is going to feel shorter, because it is a lot of free time, you can give them a couple minutes to really think about this. Then tell them that they're going to put their initials there, but I always advise that they also pick symbols to represent those treasures, talents, and intangibles. And that's going to be really important. Then we're going to have them reflect over from the heart. They're going to journal about who is your crew, who is your heart, who reminds you to be a better person, who points you towards consolation, what drives you to be better from the heart. This is where their 6-word memoir is going to go. And then daily practice is including that habit that they wrote in their connecting the dots assignment. We want them to consider, what do you do to improve yourself every day? This is the daily practice, right? We want to, practice makes perfect. Practice makes us more manifested. Give them that opportunity to think about their daily practice. And this quadrant, well, you could do like the striped field, but do it with words and habits that the student would like to do. And so I would show off mine, you should show off yours. I want them to notice that my, people call me KCP. That's an affectionate, not because I'm Cantavius Caldwell Pope, but because it's an affectionate term that my friend Jamal gave me. And then it just sort of started getting picked up by other colleagues. So KCP is an important thing to me. I also picked 3 symbols that represent who I am, I think intrinsically, as somebody that really values my own intellect and really tries to build that. I'm someone who is open to growth, and I'm always trying to improve myself. And I have a big heart. I wear my heart on my sleeve. So those symbols, again, we talk about like, what's a good symbol? You can kind of figure out based off those symbols what I'm trying to show the world, because it's universal. So help students make sure they pick symbols that make sense. Then I put my 6-word memoir here, and you can see I put some of my habits. Self-care is something I'm working on. I'm working on building more solid relationships and pouring into them, because I am a very task-driven human. And then this thing in Spanish is todo a su tiempo, which is like everything in its own time. And just a reminder for me to slow down, because I get a little bit wrapped up in things, right? So spend some time explaining yours, because you need to be thoughtful just as our students need to be thoughtful. Then once that happens, you're going to invite them to make a crest of their own. They can either use the crest template that is on in their planners. So they could do a hand-drawn one, or they can do a digital one. The digital one is on the week 4 module. And so that's the class. If you notice kids are getting done in 15 minutes, or you still have a ton of time, This is a great place to say, you know what, you can finish the Faith Crest. For those that have not finished yet, you have this for homework. Let's go outside and let's do a campus tour, right? Give them an opportunity to do whatever you want. If they need the work time, please give them the work time. If they're engaged and focused, if they're not, maybe this is an opportunity to do an icebreaker outside, kind of get them moving. So again, you are the teacher, you're the one that knows what's best for your class. And that is that lesson.